Do you?
What is Trojan's thing on the thing? Is it just iPhone?
Yeah, he's just an iPhone.
Oh, is that what mine says?
Yeah.
I was like, should I put FBI truck on my little thing?
So are you using any kind of headphones, or you just got us on speakerphone?
I got some headphones on.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure that'll cancel out any background noise or anything.
Yeah.
No, it won't.
It
I can type and Trogdon hears it. So.
Well, that's because he has supersonic hearing. Like what he lacks in like hair growth, he gained in subsonic.
Yeah. I'm the daredevil of baldness.
I'm dead.
Totally, like that's going on the show, by the way. Like I got that recorded. So, but do we want to
do the show, bitch?
I'm excited. Yeah, we got to be on a quick time frame this morning because there's a couple of us and we got things to talk about. So, hey everybody, welcome back to another fun-filled, action-packed episode of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. And I have absolutely no idea what episode this is. I think it's like episode 160 or something. I don't know. I'll have to go check my spreadsheets because I got them.
Matt, what episode is it?
156, isn't it? No?
Yeah,
No.
I think that's about right.
It might be. I'll have to check. But anyway, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Matt Trogdon.
I'm Craig Lance.
And we are joined by a brother this morning. We got together and we said, hey, who else reads as much comics as we do throughout the week, throughout the year? Who else would be really fun to get on here for kind of a 2020 wrap up? And one name kind of circled around to all of us. And we're like, no, that dude reads dump trucks of funny books. And that is Mr. Castro Gambino himself, Mike Nelson. How's it going, brother?
What's up, brother? What's going on, y'all?
Just
thanks for joining us, dude.
Yeah.
No problem. Just trying to make sure that no porn pops up on my end.
Nah, you don't got to do that. Come on.
Yeah, we don't care.
Well, I mean, if you want to watch it, that's fine. Just turn the volume down. What you do in your house is between you.
Yeah, listen. Yeah, Caleb's a cop. Sorry.
Shit. If anything, Caleb's the public defender. So,
I know that.
Anyway, all that aside, this is going to be a fun show. So here's what we've got in store for you all today and for each other, really. We got together and we said, hey, every year we do kind of a best of show. We called it the Golden Geekeries or some nonsense, but 2020 was a particularly odd year, right? Like it was kind of a dumpster fire.
What? It was a perfect year.
It might have been a dumpster fire inside a dumpster fire. Like if you can have just like the Russian nesting dolls of dumpster fires, that's what this past year was. So we decided not to do a quote unquote best of where we run through a bunch of different categories and creators and stuff. We were just like, hey, what can we come up with a list? Each of us with our favorite 10 books. Might be by different creators, might be in the same wheelhouse, might be completely different than anybody else's. But it'll be fun because we'll get to recap, 10 books that each of us really love. There's going to be some crossover. Some of it's going to be completely different because we all have different styles and tastes. And I think this will really solidify or exemplify for the folks who listen to the show our different personalities on the show. And it's just fun to recap the fun books. So as we go through this, make a note of stuff that maybe you haven't read, maybe you need to read, maybe you want to read, go check it out and then let us know what you think. So it's fun times. And if you want to come post about maybe what your top 10 books of 2020 were, you can do that by join our little Facebook group. We're at Southern Fried Geekery on the Facebooks. It's, the crack pipe of social media, but just join it anyway, unless you're Matt, because he said no. He just said no.
The devil.
It is. But we're also on Twitter and the Instagrams. We're at SFG Podcast on both of those. And the cool thing, if you go to any of those spots, you can just tag Castro, our buddy Mike Nelson, who's here with us, because he's on all of those things. And you can drop your opinions, and he'll let you know if you're right or not, because he does that to me all the time. So, well, all right, guys, are we? we ready to do this? How do we want to go in a pecking order? We're going to start at number 10, and then we're going to go up from there. So, do we want to be nice to our guest and let Mike go first, or Mike, do you want one of us to take the reins? It's up to you, buddy.
Oh, it don't matter. I know for me, I just was going to say my number 10 book would have to be Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
And I guess since we're starting from looking at the 2020 year, man, it's just because of Better Bill.
I love the honesty, brother.
Yeah, it's because of Better Bill. I mean, of course, it started off as one of those books that was just over compensated with villains and heroes. I mean, Cosmic Ghost Rider was on the team briefly, Nova, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's all because of the Better Bill.
It's Donnie Cates on that, right?
Yeah, but they changed it to Al Ewing. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Which Al Ewing's actually doing a really, really good job. It's one of Marvel's more quieter books, which I'm kind of enjoying. Marvel's got some really, really good books that are really, really not as loud as a few other ones that are probably on everybody's list.
Right.
But of course, then they brought Hercules back and the Greek gods, and I think that Guardians is setting the table for how the Greek gods will be introduced into the MCU.
Mm.
So that's kind of interesting, and of course, like Hercules is making out with everybody on the team. So
because of course he is.
Yeah, because it's Hercules. So I mean,
awesome.
It's been pretty interesting. So that would be my number 10 book for me.
Nice. Awesome. Al Ewing's a powerhouse. Well, Matt, we'll jump over to you next, brother. We'll go. Yeah, we'll do the M's first and then moves into the C's. It's like reverse alphabetical order.
Yeah, that sounds perfectly logical.
It's how Craig does his comics.
Yeah, yeah, right. That's all the thought he gives into what movies he watches too, I've noticed.
Yes. Correct.
Number 10 for me, and this is the one that I'm going to have to justify, is the main Batman title by James Tynion, and mostly the art was Jorge Jimenez and Gilliam Marsh. Take away the last issue that came out in 2020, and I think this does not need to be justified. But I had to have an honest conversation with myself. I hated this last issue that came out in 2020 of this run, but everything leading up to that, I really liked. I was really enjoying the run. I really liked that, when James Tynion took over as the writer and the new art team. So that's when I had to be honest and be like, I got to put it on there because I looked forward to it every week. But now I don't know what the hell to think about it. But that's my number 10.
All right. I like this. Yeah, I can't say that I disagree. It didn't make my top 10, but I can't say I disagree with it.
Yeah.
All right. My number 10 is Red Mother from Boom Studios, Jeremy Hahn and Danny Luckert. This has been a solid book from issue 1 all the way through. It's getting ready to wrap up. Good horror story written by our buddy Jeremy Hahn, and I've enjoyed it the whole way through.
Yeah, no, it's been a great horror story. And Luckert's visuals, I'd never seen Luckert before he made this book. But the way that he draws these characters and the amount of suspense that he can put in his line is outstanding.
Absolutely.
Incredible. So for my number 10, I went with a little book from Image Comics that I honestly didn't think I was going to like when it came out, but I ended up just being really attracted to the visuals, and the story took a different turn from what I was expecting. And that book is none other than Adventure Man. This was written by Matt Fraction, drawn, inked, and colored by Terry and Rachel Dodson. So if you hadn't picked this story up, it is a love letter to like pulp fiction novels. It's got a family, there's a mom who is very close with her family, her sisters and stuff. And she and her son are just kind of doing their own thing. And she owns a bookstore And she kind of reads her son stories every night as like bedtime stories about, old pulp superheroes. Well, the things actually start to happen, and she starts to notice these things getting real, and she is kind of sucked into the narrative. So it's this kind of metafiction moment, and the kid gets a chance to be his own little type of hero, and the mom gets to be a hero. And as good as the story is aside, it's nothing compared to the visuals that Terry and Rachel Dodson just lay out. Like their work is stunning. It's ridiculous. It's one of the sweetest looking books I think that I've picked up in a long time. And that's what you expect from Terry and Rachel. Like they are not only a great team on the page, but a great team in life. And I know a couple of you guys read this book too. So yeah, as soon as this comes out in like a trade form, you got to pick it up if you haven't done it already.
Nice. Mike, number 9.
Number 9. For me, I'd say Detective Comics. And I think, who's that? Tomasi? Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Tomasi.
Yeah. So he's been on Detective Comics, I want to say, for about the last possibly 2 years. And
like that, yeah.
What I like about Detective is it's quick, short.
Did we lose him?
Yeah, no, I thought I lost you. So it's quick, short stories that tie into the main Batman book. So it's kind of like it's been kind of like a side adventure book, but it's just really real written, well drawn. And it's just I graphically I just love it. You know what I mean? It's Batman. You get to see what Batman is doing in between chasing Catwoman and trying to raise Damian.
Well, and you get the Bat family stories in that book.
Yeah, you do. There's been some pretty good stuff, like character development stuff when it comes to characters like Two-Face, because I guess now they're going to try to push him to be more of a hero, or one of those guys that's going to be helping Batman. So there's just a lot of good character development from old school villains like Two-Face and Mr. Freeze and stuff like that. And I think people would really enjoy Detective if they're not a main Batman person.
There you go. I can't argue that one.
Yeah, for sure. I was just going to throw adding in on that. Like Brad Walker's been drawn at the last couple of issues, and dude, his work is ridiculous. Like it looks so fucking good.
And it's bright. It's not the typical Batman book where sometimes they draw Batman so dark, or they ink it so dark that you're like, what the hell is going on?
Right.
But it's nice. It's bright. It's loud. When you read it, because the page layouts are so good, and I think visually people would love to read it along with the story.
I can't disagree with that at all.
Yep.
Oh, man. All right, Matt.
Number 9 for me is Dead Body Road from Image. This is the book by Justin Jordan and Benjamin Tiesma. I love the first Dead Body Road series, and I really dug this one just because. I guess to sum it up, it's just a simple revenge story. It's just a real simple linear story, really compelling characters in it. And those are, I really appreciate those because so many of the things that we read are so big and over the top. So a very ground level story I really dig on. And a good revenge story, I'm usually going to check those out anyway.
Yeah, especially with this one where, as you were talking about a few weeks ago, where you're like, by the end of this thing, you really don't know who to root for. So you're like, okay.
Exactly.
And mine and Matt's first crossover happened, so mine's a little higher on the list. But yep, there we go.
Nice. Well, what's in your number 9 spot, Craig?
I have Mercy by Mirka Andolfo,
okay.
Image Comics. It's a beautifully drawn and illustrated book, as you would expect from Mirka Andolfo. And it's a gothic horror book that takes place in the Victorian era. beautiful. Like I said, it's beautiful. Even if I didn't like the story, I would buy this book just to look at it.
Yeah. Yep. So my number 10 is a book. I don't even know if I spoke about it on the show.
No. You don't get to add an extra book in there.
Yeah.
We're on number
Sorry.
9.
My bad. My number 9.
You see how he's going to do that, right, Matt?
Yeah. This happens all the time, Nelson. All the time.
My number 10, number 10D.
Yeah.
10.1. No, I was looking at my spreadsheet and I've got our names on the first line. And so it's like there's 11 spaces. So yeah, that's my bad. That's my excuse for trying to slip one in. So my number 9, as Craig with the quickness reminded me, is a book that I don't even know if I've necessarily spoke about it on this show before. I know I talked about it with the guys over on Comic Book Bears for a little bit, but it's a OGN by a British cartoonist named Stephen Appleby. And Stephen, even though Stephen uses the name that she was born with, Stephen's a trans woman, and she has got a long history of being very, very published, and so she decided to keep that name. But Dragman is a story about this individual that it's really neatly drawn. It's drawn like you would think of funnies. It's drawn kind of like a political cartoon, a series of them. But Dragman is a man who gets superpowers when he puts on women's clothes, and so it's a giant. He's married to a woman. He's got kids. He meets a sidekick named Dog Girl, and so it's this giant treatise of figuring out gender and figuring out what makes a hero. And by the end of it, what Dragman comes to realize is that he doesn't kind of fit in anywhere in the brackets, and he's just himself, which I think is a cool story. It's a little bit of a thicker book. But it was really fun. I know you can probably, I don't know if you can pick it up through the kind of the comic book store channels. You go through the Amazon, obviously, or order it off the internet. But it really is a fun book. It's kind of got, like I said, this low key, kind of indie cartoonist style. And Stephen Appleby is incredibly sharp in the way she writes, in the way that she dictates out the story. Lots of twists and turns. There's a love story embedded in the middle of it that is not your atypical love story. So I really dug this. It really stuck with me. It was one of those things, talking to Matt and Craig, it's one of those books that, when you remember it months later, you might not go revisit it again, and it's not an ongoing, but you just can't get past it. Like, it just makes you think about things. And so I really appreciated this book, and it put Stephen Appleby on my radar. So I've been able to go check out more of her work and follow her on the Twitters, where she is hilarious. So, and it looks good on the shelf too, I got to say. So
can I say that I was already sold when you said Dragman?
Yeah,
that just sounds like the name of a hero that would beat your ass.
Dragman.
He's like, oh shit, I don't want to be caught in the alley with Dragman. Like, beat my ass.
They snatch their wig off and they pull off the earrings. It's about to get real.
It sounds like it definitely sounds like a fun book. I just had this. There's a particular episode of like Law and Order SVU, and it just keeps popping up in my head.
Right.
So
nope. I think I know exactly which episode you're talking about.
Yes.
But yeah, no, seriously, check that out. All right, Matt, or Mike, we're jumping back over to you, brother. What's your number 8?
Okay, so my number 8. I wouldn't say that it's not a comic, but I mean, I think they ought to be, but it's gonna be My Hero, but it's, of course, it's a manga, but it's My Hero. I'm looking right at it. I'm just trying to turn it.
Academia.
Yeah.
Or is it the Vigilantes?
It's the Vigilantes.
Yeah.
So, of course, when COVID hit, we weren't getting any new books. The first a little bit after February. So
yeah, trying to
support Kapow, just looking for new stuff to read. So I started reading Vigilantes, and man, I actually enjoyed it. Like, that Vigilantes is my first manga that I've ever just like really dove into, and It sets up that world. It's a prequel that sets up that world and that universe pretty well. Especially because it's so convoluted with heroes, and of course the main story is everybody is born with powers, and it's just you got this one guy called Knuckle Duster, and he doesn't have a lick of power. He's just an old dude that's just stubborn. I mean, he's Wolverine without being Wolverine. So I picked that up, and it's pretty good. I would recommend that to anybody who's looking to get into My Hero without jumping into the main title.
Yeah, so everybody that I know that reads My Hero tends to like the Vigilantes book even better.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot more fast paced and it's got a lot more fun in it than the main title to me.
Now, this is the one that our former co-host and still really good friend, Jerry, just kind of gushes over all the time, isn't it? Yeah. Now, Mike, I want to just before we move on, you at the beginning of that, you said that you're not sure it counts as a comic. Is that just because it's a manga, or?
Well, I mean, I say that for myself, really, just because when I go to the comic book store, I don't really necessarily get a lot of mangas at the time because I'm already so tied up in so many other stories that it's just one of those things that was my first honest time diving straight into a manga and just jumping on each book every other week. So
nice. Yeah, no, I think a lot of especially American comic readers, they kind of get hung up on that aspect. And we've said on the show before, mangas are comics. It's just another word. So it's another word for the same thing. So it's good to hear that you're like branching out and really digging that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I can tell you that the only thing that that sometimes confuses me is when I get too inebriated, I start reading forward instead of backwards, and then I'm like, what the hell's going on? I just read
this. That could be confusing.
Yeah, man.
Or it could be better. So,
until you start
like, oh, this dude just lost.
Yeah, like I caught myself reading the same pages a few times. I'm like, what the hell?
Well, all right, Matt. What's your number?
From Image, Ascender by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen.
Ooh, I like
this.
That.
Yeah, this book I look forward to every time it comes out. And to be totally open about it, if it came out on a more regular basis, it probably would have ranked higher. But it's strong, man. I mean, this is super strong.
Yeah, if this would have been on my list, if that's for the same reason. If it came out more often, I kind of forget about it between issues sometimes.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, and I haven't read Ascender yet. I've only read parts of Descender, but it's really neat seeing kind of a sci-fi story being done with like Wynn's watercolors. That's not something you see very often in sci-fi stories. Just kind of the ethereal feel that he gets in his books is nice.
Yeah, it does. It's got a really unique look.
For sure. Mm-hmm. Great book. My number 8 is a DC OGN Shadow of Batgirl by Sarah Kuhn and Nicole Goy. This was a really good introduction into the character, or a kind of a retelling of Cassandra Cain's taking over as Batgirl. And really a fun, interesting book. I talked about it on the show when it came out, and I highly recommend anybody to read this book.
Nice. I hear really good things about those OGNs that DC.
This is honestly the only one I read, but I loved it. So don't ask me why it's the only one I read.
Got to remedy that in 2021, man. New year, new Craig. All right, so in my number 8 spot, and I said number 8 because I got the number right that time. I also have a DC book, and I kind of waffled on where this one would land in the middle of my stack, and I moved it down a little bit. And it's one of those things as we're doing this, I'm like, nah, this should have been higher. But then I look at the stuff that's up there, and it was so hard to make this list. But it goes to Hawkman. This book was written by Robert Venditti, Pat Oliphey, with and it's because it's an ongoing DC book. They had different artists come in and out. So like Pat Oliphey did part of it, and then you had Fernando Pesarin who did the bulk, I want to say, of Robert Venditti's run on this series. And I think the series started with like Brian Hitch or something back in 2019. But this actually wrapped up this series, and I gotta say why it's on my list. Number one, it's a really fun story, and I love the Hawkman character, Hawkman and Hawkgirl, who also plays just as much of a predominant role in this. But part of what made this so great is Robert Venditti started doing something with the beginning of this book that I think other people have gone on since to do with the broader universe. But he took this entire convoluted history of Hawkman. Is he a remnant of ancient Egypt? Is he magic? Is he a space alien? Is Thanagar a real place? And all of these like reboots and restarts with the history. And he made them all count. And I know that, like I said, something very similar just got done with DC's Death Metal, where they went back with the entire history of the DC universe and said, no, everything happened. Everything is real. It all has weight. And so it all counts. But Venditti did that first, I say first, just in recent history. Like he was doing that with this book. And by the end of it, this kind of last arc, they go back in time, so to speak, and you get to see Hawkman with the JSA again. And I love the JSA. Like I like that kind of golden era story, and to see Hawkman and Hawkgirl jump back in there and just kind of re-solidify themselves as those heroes was really fun. Of course, it doesn't end there. It goes on to, to really culminate in this kind of historical and, it ends in a way that's going to affect the future of these characters. Even with people putting the toys back in the toy box, so to speak. But yeah, what Venditti did is going to have major repercussions. It's going to have ripples that go on for future writers that they get to play with. And he just did a wonderful job. Even the parts that tied into Death Metal, which I genuinely don't care about. I didn't read that. The story didn't compel me. But the Death Metal parts, I think, were the weakest parts of the story, but they were still good, if that makes sense. This kind of otherworldly Death Metal Hawk god that they had to kick ass with and defeat was just fun. Very energetic. If they collect Venditti's run in a hardcover, I'm going to triple dip or double dip, whatever you got to call it, to put it on my shelf, because it's one of the best runs of Hawkman that I've ever read. And I've read a lot of Hawkman. So check it out.
Man, you are strong with the Force for that, because man, I just can't with Hawkman. Just can't.
I read the first arc of that. I think it started in 2019 when Hitch was doing the art on it, but I fell off of it pretty quickly. But that doesn't mean it wasn't good.
Just get rid of the suspenders. Like, man, can we get him a new look?
Okay, first of all, those aren't suspenders. That's a harness. My boy's into some feathery BDSM. Don't take that away from him. Second of all, don't take that away from me, because Caleb also likes winged muscle dudes in harnesses. So shut your whore mouth.
Oh, shit.
Oh. Astro, number 7, buddy.
So number 7 will be Matt actually put me onto this book, Far Sector, from Black Label from DC.
Yep, that's a good one.
Man, I don't know. I'll be lying to you if I pay attention to who's writing it, but the book is beautiful. Matt was like, man, you really got to take this out. So I went back, actually picked up, I think the first 3 issues, and I was like, man, this is what a Green Lantern book should be. Like, what is her name again, Matt? I forget.
The writer is N.K. Jemisin. She's actually a African-American woman who primarily writes sword and sorcery ish fantasy novels, and she's won some awards for them. And I've read a couple of her books, and she writes really, really good sword and sorcery fantasy stuff from a unique. She's got a very unique angle on it. I think it's been optioned actually.
This book has been on almost every top 20 list. If you go search the internet for end of the year awards, it's been on almost everybody's list.
Oh yeah, it's well written, and like I said, it's the colors they use, the bright pinks, the bright greens. Sometimes even if a story's not so good, that's how you can win me over. Is just a beautifully drawn book. But this book is really it really should probably be in my top 5, but I had to push it back some. But I love the way she's writing this character. I love Green Lantern has kind of stalled out as the Corpse has stalled out for me when it comes to those other characters. Uh-huh. And this is just a fresh take on a new Green Lantern in the universe. That's pretty much away from Earth. You don't have to worry about them hanging out on Earth all damn, the whole damn run. And it's not the same old story where she's fighting with another Lantern or anything like that. She's actually on a whole nother planet, being a cop, and just doing what you would think GLs are supposed to do.
Yeah, it's a great GL representation, and Jamal Campbell does the art, and it's amazing, and draws her with a big booty. It's awesome.
Yeah, I like that part too. Dude, there are some panels in there where you can tell they're purposely giving her like that swag with her hips.
Oh yeah, she.
Oh, it's sexy.
Like, I'm gonna have to read this again.
All right, Matt.
Number 7 for me is from Image, The Goddamned The Virgin Brides by Jason Aaron and R.M. Guerra.
God damn it. I forgot about this book.
Oh, well.
Yeah, that's all right. It's represented.
Yeah. This world that Jason Aaron, this pre-flood world that Jason Aaron has started writing in, the first goddamn series. I love the setting for this book, man. It is so good. It's dark. It's gross. Everything is evil and dirty. It's like, man, it's so sweet.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, it's the art is killing it. Dude, this is a great freaking story.
Yeah. Everything about that book is good. And if somebody wants to argue, they'll get punched in the face by Castro.
Yeah.
I like how you're volunteering.
Yeah. Somebody else do the work.
It's like the prequel to Conan.
Yes,
it's such an amazing story.
Yeah. Number 7 for me is. Do what, Mike?
Oh no, I was just saying. Yeah, the goddamn almost made it in my top 10. That book is really good. I just started reading it actually, so that's the only reason it's in my top 10. But it is really, really good.
It didn't make my top 10 because, honestly, I just overlooked it. Number 7 for me is Dead Body Road, for all the reasons Matt already said.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was a quick one. On to you, Caleb.
All right. Well, let me just say that I am glad that Matt picked the goddams because it hit the number 11 spot on mine and just barely got edged out. So I'm glad to see that because it was solid. My number 7 actually goes to a little 4-part series from Dark Horse Comics, and that is Tales from Harrow County, Death's Choir. You guys know I love Harrow County. Cullen Bunn and Tyler Crook did that. They brought in a new artist, or I should say newish artist, Naomi Franquez, to do the art on this book. She fits in great with Tyler Crook's style. So essentially what they do in this book is our old friend Bernice takes center stage in this, and she is older and she is using her kind of hedge magic to do stuff. And Harrow County does its Harrow County thing. Some spookiness happens, some Haints come around and she got to solve the problems. So it felt like going home again. As I look at the library editions on my shelf, I love Barrow County. And so it felt good to walk in those shoes again. So check out this little 4-part series if you like the original story.
Nice. I really need to check that book out.
You do. If you haven't read the first volume, for sure, you need to check it out.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about that book.
I love it.
So what are we on, number 6?
6?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man, I never thought I'd say this, but so number 6 for me, it's I would say more so the storyline in the book, but it's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
It's getting a lot of love.
Man, Power Rangers has really been an adult book. Like, I mean, it's a rehashing of the very first team, and it's more adult. It's been more fun. It's been the crossovers have been crazy, like the Ninja Turtles popping up in Angel Grove, and I mean the crossovers with the Justice League, and I mean it's just been it's a fun book about like some Super Sentai shit. So it's just been really fun. I mean, I myself didn't believe that I was going to like it at first, but I mean, it was pretty good. It was pretty good.
I mean, like I said, it's been getting tons of love around the internet, so you're not alone, Mike.
Yeah, you're like the third person this week that has gushed over that book. So it's one of those things that missed our radar, or at least missed my radar.
Well, I mean,
I need to go get it up.
I guess it's just because you finally get to see the consequences of a lot of stuff that they couldn't show on the TV show. So it's just it's and visually it's another book that's actually drawn really, really well.
Nice.
Solid. All right, Matt.
Number 6 for me is Marvel's Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood. I love this freaking book.
Yeah, it's so good.
Of course, this has got various artists, various writers. The story that put this one over the top for me is the story where Wolverine and Sabretooth are fighting. I never get sick of watching those two fight. And when Wolverine headbutts Sabretooth in the nose, it's like, I mean, the comic book's in black and white, but I saw fucking colors. I saw colors.
Yeah. Well,
so Matt, where does headbutting fit in your hierarchy of violence again?
I mean, it's rotating in the top 3. I mean, it's amazing. Fucking headbutts, man, headbutts.
Yeah. This book definitely would have made my list if it had had more than 2 issues this year. It's fantastic.
Right.
Just everything about that book. I love it. My number 6 is Something is Killing the Children by James Tynion and Werther Dell'Edera, Boom Studios. You've heard me talk about this book on the show numerous times. Absolutely, in my opinion, the best fictional horror story that's in comics this year. You got a town that, as the title says, a monster shows up and starts killing the children. A group of, I guess you would call them covert monster hunters. One of their people shows up and in her effort to kill the monster actually breaks a bunch of their rules, and now she's trying to defend the town from this covert group that's going to show up and trying to kill the entire town so that the monster knowledge doesn't get out to the main public.
This is also one of those books that I hear I haven't read yet, but like everybody talks about how solid this is.
Yeah, it's some of Tynion's best work, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And Dell'Edera, his art is just unbelievable. Yeah.
Facts. Yeah, from what I've seen of it, it's just ridiculous. Well, as much as I respect and appreciate Craig's opinion, I got to say I'm side-eyeing him. I'm disagreeing hard that was the best horror book, because it can't be, because one of the best is the plot. that is also in my number 6. And, I'm winking at him as I say that, of course. But yeah, so the plot from Vault Comics has solidly been one of my favorite stories this year. And it kind of turned my attention to Vault as a publisher. And I've dived more into their stuff and been really pleasantly pleased with what I found. But so this story is written by Tim Daniel and Michael Morrissey with art by Joshua Hickson. And it does something cool because it's more of a story, not only about character, but about place. So it's kind of a haunted house story. Main character Chase, he is forced to adopt his niece and nephew, and like the plot, the family plot, the family house kind of turns against them. It's a little bit of a swamp monster story, a little bit of the past will come back to haunt you, generational grievance story. One of the most haunting books that I've read, especially this year, but in a long time. If you love those old school style, like Swamp Thing stories or Man Thing stories, check this out. It's not going to be the same. Like, it's not that kind of monster story, but it's got similar tones to it. So if you're looking for something in that vein.
So if you're looking for a Swamp Thing or a Man Thing book, check this book out, even though it's nothing like those books.
No, don't read Swamp Thing or Man Thing. Read this to get something different.
Well, number one, there's only one Swamp Thing book out, but it's got a swamp monster story. The swamp monster just doesn't take the full face. It does like that. See, you make me self-conscious, Craig. I got to do the Matt thing where I justify myself.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that was my number 6. So hats off to that team, dude. The plot's so good, and those colors are chef's
So
kiss.
as we start to roll into the top 5, this I assume is where we're going to start having a lot of crossover.
Oh yeah.
Probably.
Based on what's been chosen and spoken about so far, I would guess. So.
Okay.
I'm excited.
So let me. I'm gonna stick with the horror theme a little bit. It's a little bit of horror theme. So my 5th book for my top 5 would be Justice League Dark. Man, so I've tried reading Wonder Woman books before. Sometimes it's hard because I don't know, they just kill Wonder Woman with a lot of dialogue sometimes. But Justice League Dark is really what a Wonder Woman book should be. She's finally got her own team, her own faction of the Justice League that she can run, and it's just, man, it's a weird lineup. It's Detective Chimp, who's the Man Bat, and then the Doctor that's Man Bat. You got John Constantine, Satana. Man, it's just a really good book that dives into the magic and the horror aspect of the DC universe. And it's Wonder Woman in all her glory. Like,
yeah, you've sung the praises of this book since day one.
Yeah, I mean, I love seeing Wonder Woman beat up magical animals and beasts. Like, I need more of this. Like, Wonder Woman needs to be fighting demons.
Does she still have the power up that they gave her? The magical powers?
So she gave all the magic that apparently she has. She gave that to what's the chick she's always beefing with, the witch that's an Olympian, Cersei. Gave Cersei all the magic. But
gotcha.
Apparently Wonder Woman has unlimited magic,
right?
Because she's pretty much born for magic.
Yeah. And
which I just love I love seeing Wonder Woman in a leadership role. Like, that's the one thing I really like. That's one of the reasons I don't read Justice League a lot, is because I always feel like Batman and Superman are always running the team, and I like the way Wonder Woman runs this team and how she kind of.
I don't read Justice League much anymore because it's just not good anymore.
That's been true for a long time.
Keeps getting kicked out.
There's some analysis from Craig if you needed it.
I mean, so this is one of those things where you learn something new every day about one of your friends. I had no idea that Castro was a big Wonder Woman fan, so that's just another reason to love him. Because I mean, I could just sit here and listen to him wax poetic because she's that's my favorite DC character, and I haven't read this. I actually didn't know she was such a big part of Justice League Dark. So I need to go back and do into that.
So there's one reason, or there's a lot of reasons to read this book. Let me just point out one before we move on. That I just felt like was one of the most badass moments in DC like continuity or whatever. So Mordred has set up. He lives in the Hall of Justice.
Mm-hmm.
Like the most evil wizard in the universe lives in the Hall of Justice just randomly. Like he keeps his whole little his shack or whatever that he lives in invisible. It's just the most badass thing for a villain to be like, oh yeah, I live in y'all shit, and you can't do nothing about it. So, but it's little tidbits like that why I love that book.
Nice. I'm sorry I talked over you a minute ago. You cut out on my end, but I think you were still talking, so I'm sorry about that, Mike.
Oh no, I actually got like booted from the chat, which was cool because I had to fart anyway. So.
All right, Matt. What's your number 5, brother?
I'll follow that up with number 5 for me is the Marvel's book, The Marauders by Jerry Duggan. Art mostly is done. 2 different pencilers have done most of the art: Matteo Lolli and Stefano Caselli.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm enjoying about this series the most is how Jerry Duggan is writing Storm. Dude, he is killing it writing Storm, man. Every issue he does. This last issue I just read yesterday, it came out this week, man, when she shows up on the lightning bolt. It's amazing. Dude, amazing. I just love the way he writes Storm. The whole series is great. You know, he's writing a really compelling Kate Pride. Everybody he's killing it with. But Storm, man, he is knocking it out of the park with her.
Yeah, this is another book that's getting love all over the internet, and for good reason. Yeah. My number 5 book was Butcher of Paris by Stephanie Phillips and Dean Kotz, Dark Horse Comics.
Great book.
This was a really compelling nonfiction book that takes place World War II era. There's a serial killer in Paris at the time of the Nazi takeover of Paris. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and you put that book on my radar, and ever since then I've been seeing kind of pop up everywhere and writing some really good stuff. So it put her. I think she's had one of the, as far as newcomers go, she's been one of the best newcomers of the year for her work. We've seen her in a couple of places. It's fun stuff.
Yep. And like you said, this was the one, I'd never heard of her before, but man, this book was so good.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Loved it. Well, so that's a good segue into my number 5 because it kind of takes place in the same time period. And this is another OGN, and it's called A Letter to Joe. It's written by Joseph Siraki and our really good friend, Kelly Williams. So shout out to Kelly. That dude needs to get more mainstream work. Why he's not like blowing up all over the place is ridiculous. I don't understand it. But the cool thing about this book is it's actually it's fictional realism. It's kind of like The Butcher of Paris. Joseph Siraki, the guy who wrote it, took letters that his grandfather wrote to his grandmother when he was overseas. And I need to go back. I'd have to go back and check. I actually think.
Wouldn't that make it nonfiction?
It's based on there are some fictional elements of it, so it's one.
Okay.
It's straddling.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah.
No, you're fine. No, it's one of those things that straddles the line. Is it nonfiction or is it fictional realism that's based off of realistic events? Is it embellished? So who knows? But it's a book that takes place. Like I said, I can't remember if it was World War I or World War II. I think it was World War II though. So it was letters that his grandfather wrote back to his grandmother, and they turned that into an incredibly heart-wrenching in places, compelling in places, energetic in places story where Kelly's paints just do all kinds of heavy lifting in the book. So if you miss this one too, you got to get it because it's
if you love war stories and especially World War II war stories, this book was absolutely amazing.
Just hitching the
check
chest.
that out.
So, all right, back over to you, Mike.
Man, I love how we kind of segue into everybody's next book, because my number 4 is actually Captain America by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Man, Cap is so. There's only a few times that I can really just be like, man, I love how people write Cap. And I think the last one I had this feeling was when Hugh Baker wrote it, and then Spencer wrote it. But man, Ta-Nehisi Coates is killing Captain America. Oh my goodness! Like, it's good to see Cap interact with like mutants and other heroes. And I mean, this story pretty much takes place after the whole Secret Empire fiasco, and Cap really just trying to get people to believe in him again. And it's good to see Cap back in that role where he's like, I want to give everyone something to believe in again. Like, I want to stand for the symbol that I pretty much put on my shoulders.
So one thing is that they didn't just gloss over the fact that they had this story where he was a Hydra agent.
Yeah.
They didn't just pretend it didn't happen and start over, and I dig that. And number 2, with the world where it is today, it's kind of nice to see Cap grabbing that mantle and being who he is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, Coates is writing. I'm reading this too. Really good. Coates he really captures Cap's character. Like, I don't know. I don't think he could do it any better.
Well, and the artwork, because I'm on this as well, and the artwork just keeps knocking that apart. It's got that very simplistic, kind of fun, comic booky style art, which is funny because the book is such a complex book, and it's a very nuanced story, so it juxtaposes really well. And, Mike can speak to this better than I think any of us can, but it's nice seeing a black man writing Captain America, because so many times we kind of see patriotism centered around straight white men, and Cap is not doing that right now. Ta-Nehisi Coates is really spreading that out and he's doing more than just surface level work with the character, and it's as you would expect somebody who like leads Mensa to do. So
no, that's I'm glad you said that. That's one of the reasons I think I may like this Cap run more than the other 2 writers that I've spoken on, just because this makes Cap feel colorless. Like, I don't see him as blonde hair, blue eyed Steve Rogers. I just see him, if that makes sense.
The symbol, yeah.
You know what I mean? It just makes it like there's a particular issue where Cap is just trying to plead with his town, and he's like, let me help y'all. Like, I am who I am. You know what I mean? I made my mistakes, and it's refreshing to see Cap be like, hey, I want to be this symbol. Like, this isn't something that just is a burden.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. So number 4.
Yeah, Matt, what's our number 4 book?
Marvel's X-Men.
Hey, look, it's the same for me.
Lineal. Yeah, and it surprised myself. I ranked it as low as 4, but I just had to have an honest conversation with myself. But this whole X-Men run, man, has just been amazing. So good.
What is this? Yeah,
it was number 4 for me as well. And for the same reason, it was just because I couldn't move the other 3 books down. Yeah. But X-Men, if you are not reading this run of X-Men and you are an X-Men fan, you are doing yourself a disservice. And even if you aren't an X-Men fan, you need to be reading at least this main title.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been on that would have been in my top 10, and I know y'all liked it better than I did.
Would have been.
Yeah, well, no, what I was going to say, the X of Swords, that dropped it out for me. I didn't enjoy X of Swords. I know you guys did, but that's why it's not up in mine. It just it broke it for me. Not broke it. It's still great, but
it didn't break it for me because I looked at that as an event.
Gotcha.
That yes, it's going to have repercussions back to the X-Men books, but it didn't break it for me. But hey, teach their own.
No matter how wrong they are.
That's right.
Slap me on the hand. Can I go back and put, Hoxpox on it again, even though that was like year before last? So my number 4 jumps over to the distinguished competition, to the Black Label books, and that is Wonder Woman Dead Earth by Daniel Warren Johnson. All of it by Daniel Warren Johnson. I adored this story. I wish I was out of law school and had buy what I want to money, because I would have bought every single page possible.
I want the page where she rips Superman's spine out and turns it into a whip.
It's so this was like, when you think of what DC did with like titles that had metal in the name, fuck all those. This was the most metal book they had. And partly because they're written by somebody who actually is an incredibly talented metal player in DWJ. But so Wonder Woman wakes up after the apocalypse. Nuclear holocaust has happened. Nobody's around. Batman's dead. He's sitting on the couch. I don't know what he was doing, but she takes his utility belt and she ends up like going and picking up these other little aspects of the other heroes, and it kind of does this thing where she has to go save the day from a weird, twisted, mutated villain who has conquered everything. Also, Cheetah shows up, and Cheetah is weird, twisted, mutated, but in the best kind of badass way. And it really, he boiled down the character of Wonder Woman, and then took the essence of it and then ran it through a fucking distortion pedal that was powered by the gods. And what came out was just badass.
Nice.
That's awesome. So where are we at? Top three?
Top three.
Yep.
We are in the final run here.
Man, it's gonna sound like I'm just a Marvel guy, but I mean I kind of am. I can't lie. My top three, man, Venom. Man, I can't help it, man. I really wasn't a Venom fan until this Cates run, and it's just, man, Donny Cates can do no wrong in the moment. Between him, Al Ewing, and Hickman, they're just like killing it right now.
You're not alone in that assessment of this Venom run. It didn't make my top 10, but it's lots of people agree with you on that.
I mean, for me, it's just I'm finally glad that I have a Venom story that can that doesn't need Spider-Man to carry it. If you get my sense,
right.
And I think that's why I've enjoyed this one. I finally got a chance to get to know Eddie Brock and all the stuff going on with him. So Venom is my number 3 book.
I mean, for fuck's sake, the relationship between Eddie and his son will make you tear up, and the idea of a Venom story making you cry is stupid.
Yes.
Like,
speaking on that, that is the one thing I do like about Spider-Man, kind of slowly being in the book and not being in the book.
Right.
Is he's developing his own relationship with Eddie's kid, which you can kind of see him coming on as like a godfather or uncle. So it's cool to see stuff like that.
Uncle Pete.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Matt.
Number 3 is Marvel's X-Force, Benjamin Piercy and Joshua Cassara. This fucking book is metal. Metal, kids.
Nice.
Dude, just Benjamin Piercy, he writes a Wolverine that is just freaking spot on. Yep. It's awesome. The way he, the interchange, just reading this book for the interchanges between Kid Omega and Wolverine alone is just magic. It's amazing. I mean, Wolverine punches Beast in the gut for being a dick. It's just candy. It's
it's absolutely amazing. It is not my number 3 though. But man, fantastic book.
Craig with a quick shade.
No shade at all. I love that book.
I was being honest about his faults and shortcomings. It's very
I'm surprised that Matt and I differ in these top 3. I'm going with Daredevil, but by Chip Zdarsky and Mark Cicchetto and many others at Marvel. This book, you've heard me gush about it probably way too much, but Zdarsky's writing Daredevil as well as anybody in the past 20 years. and it's just drawn beautifully. Currently by Mark Cicchetto, but it's had so many different artists on it. But everything about this book has been great.
It's excellent. Yeah, excellent.
Hang on, my shocked face just fell off the desk and rolled out of the room. I got to go pick it up.
We didn't have the top three the same.
Yeah. All right, so my number 3. You've heard me talk about this book before. I can't preach about it enough. I thought it was one of the most visually stunning things I picked up all year. But that book is King of Nowhere from Boom Studios. Boom and Vault, both one of those things that just like smaller publishers that just really grab you. And I love this book because I'm sitting here looking at my wall and I've got a page of original art by Tyler and Hillary Jenkins hanging on the wall. I read this book and had to immediately call them and say, hey, I need this page. And they obliged. So that was great.
Nice.
And that doesn't happen too often where I make room in my budget to just get something right away. The book centers on this character named Dennis, who's kind of a lowlife. He's a shitty dude. He wakes up one day and he's not sure where he is. And where he is a place called Nowhere. That's more of it's something that you might expect to see in a drug-induced vision. Like he's sitting on a park bench in the middle of the street and the street ripples and the people are walking around and they look like animals. And everybody is strange and weird and people have upside down faces. And, Robert Englund is sitting in a diner blowing bubbles and it's all kind of weirdness. Their giant iguanas attack the town and he has to figure out what's going on. While all this is happening, a serial killer has also come into Nowhere and is chasing him. And they have to figure out what to do about it and how to save him. And also what the fuck is going on? Is this real? Is this not real? I don't know. But W. Maxwell Prince wrote this story. And I know that we're going to see more of W. Maxwell Prince in the very near future. It is incredibly strong writing. And for a book like this to really make you question what is reality, not only for the characters in the story, but also for yourself, is really big doings. It is psychedelic. It's just man, like one of the best books of the year for me. Obviously, that's why it's in my top 3. And I surprised myself with it wasn't higher. But the 2 other books that I'm going to talk about are fucking amazing. And so is this book, though. But so check this out, definitely.
Nice. All right, top 2.
He's thinking about it. He's trying to figure out if he wants to move one down or not.
My bad. So my number 2 is Thor. Right. From the end of the Jason Aaron run to the beginning of the Case run. Man, I love the Thunder God. I mean, and plus Better Ray Bill. Fucking Better Ray Bill. And Thor is just amazing. I think has probably been the most consistent character in Marvel for probably the last 6 years when it comes to storytelling. Mm-hmm. And it's just, man, the Thor mythos is tied into so much of other Marvel characters. It's just amazing how they do that. And Better Ray Bill.
Yeah, this was in my top 10 and it got bumped down, but it's absolutely an amazing book. So there's a real quick. There's this part, man, and for people who aren't really reading Thor, and I know everybody's probably seen the poster of the new Better Ray Bill book, and it's got some different armor on, and it's kind of a little bit more Spartanish or a little bit more Greek, and it's one of the most badass moments of the Donny Cates run when Better Ray Bill shows up and he's kind of just like, hey, I'm gonna beat your ass in this new armor, and it's not because I don't love you. It's just because I respect you not to wear Asgardian armor while I beat your ass. I thought you were going to say the best moment was when Donald Blake ripped Beta Ray Bill's soul off of him.
Craig, we're not friends anymore.
While we're talking about that, shout out to fellow Arkansan Aaron Cooter, who did a lot of the art on the past few issues and made it look fucking awesome.
Oh yeah,
just hotness.
Can we skip Craig?
I love you, Mike.
So are you going to get your Mike? Are you going to get your Beta Ray Bill tattooed fixed now to represent the fact he doesn't have a face anymore?
Fixed.
Ooh. This is why I hang up on people.
Yeah, I don't like the way this is going either, Mike. Shame on both of you.
Yeah, it's why so much hate, man.
No hate at all, dude. It was a fantastic moment in the book, and I'm glad it didn't stick.
No, I'm kind of glad you spoke on that. I'm curious to see what they do with him not having a soul. But I mean, evil Donald Blake is one of the most badass things that has happened.
Absolutely.
So, I can't be mad at that. I mean, this dude looks like he legit looks like Gandalf.
Right, and that's just it. This is one of the things that I talk about all the time that I love about stuff like that Donnie Cates does and several other writers do, where they take these aspects of the long continuity and they use them, but they're not constrained by them. So, and this is like we've talked about this in the Batman books, both recently and beforehand, where they take Batman mythos and they just it's just nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. That's not what Donnie Cates is doing here. He's taking that mythology and that continuity, and he's acknowledging it, but he's opening it up to new things. And I love when writers do that, because it develops the character further. You've got this character who's been around in Thor's case for 2,000 years, but more recently in Marvel for at least the last 60 to 80 years, and he's still growing, he's still developing, and that's just freaking awesome.
Yeah, it definitely is. Definitely, I agree.
All right, number 2, Matty Matt.
Number 2. DC's The Batman's Grave by Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch. If comic books were also bacon, this would be the bacon of the comic books.
I concur.
This book was fucking amazing. This book was, and the last page, the last issue was a freaking gut punch, man. This book's amazing. And nobody was reading this but me. Nobody was reading this for me, and I was like, trying to get anybody to read it, and finally Craig's the only one that cared that I was crying and crying because no one would read it. So we finally came on board.
Well, so I was waiting for it to be finished, and I was going to read it all at once, but I decided I couldn't do that to you any longer. So yes, I got caught up on it, and I'm glad I did, because wow, what a book. It is also my number 2.
It is funny to see the Matt's excitement for a book. Like he does love this book. He tried to give it to me, and I'm just like, I'm already reading too much Gotham City stuff.
But this is the best Gotham City stuff,
dude.
Drop something else and read this.
Just the conversations between Bruce and Alfred are stupid good. I mean, they're stupid good.
Yeah, Alfred's just pretty much a smart ass through the whole thing, which is fantastic.
I can't wait to read this in 2021 as like an all-encompass thing and act like it's the first time I've heard of it.
Oh, God.
I'm going to be like, he'll be like, somebody else will say something about Warren Ellis, and Caleb will say, he wrote this book called Batman's Grave.
It
was pretty decent.
He'll get it wrong on purpose. He'll be like, the Batman, the coffin or funeral or something. God damn it.
I'm like 30% of the reason that Matt needs to have his blood pressure checked on a weekly basis.
The beat downs that Brian Hitch illustrates, the freaking beat downs that Batman delivers to the thugs in this book are just like, oh my God, it's like coffee in the morning. It's like, God, look at that kick to the face. This is amazing.
So this is the bacon and coffee of comic
books. I'm telling you.
It is. I can't argue that.
It's breakfast essentials. No one writes a fight scene in comics better than Brian Hitch. 0 people. And I don't care if it's this book or you go back and look at what he did in other stories. If you want to see an amazing fight scene, go back and read his Karnak book, because it's just
You mean Warren Ellis?
Yeah, it's his authority work where Midnighter breaks down folks. Zero people can write a fight scene the way that Warren Ellis can.
Oh, magic.
Well, Craig, you said this was your number 2 as well, right?
Yeah, it was my number 2.
Any last little bits you want to throw on the pile?
Oh, I would also throw eggs in there.
Okay.
Have a full breakfast, bacon, eggs, and coffee.
Yeah.
Maybe some grits.
Well-rounded.
Grits.
Best way to start your day. All right. Well, as much as y'all love the Batman's Grave, I equally hold in high esteem a book from the House of Ideas that has been in our top books for the last several years, and it feels weird to say that about a book starring who is my favorite Marvel character, and that's the Immortal Hulk by Al Ewing, Joe Bennett, Jose Russo.
You just wanted to talk about it first. Be honest.
That's why.
Yeah.
That's my number 1. So
Yeah.
I think that might be 3 other people's number 1.
Yeah,
It is.
Well, we can spare a few minutes for it then and just kind of dive into it. This is another book kind of like Hawkman that the same reasons I loved Venditti's Hawkman. What Al Ewing has done with this character to take the full history, the full mythos of a very convoluted history, continuity with this character and make it all real, make it all count, make it all matter. Whereas some people like to pick and choose what they drag into the sandbox. Al Ewing took the road less traveled by and he drug everything into the sandbox and he made it all work. He made it all have weight. He really established the different personalities of the Hulk character and allowing them to communicate to each other and affect one another and talk to one another and go beyond just the mental anguish and the mental battles that they create inside Bruce Banner's head, but actually like push that outward and show how those different characters affect different relationships in Bruce Banner's life and different like depending on what mood he is in is incredibly important to the outcome of whatever situation that he's in. And then to not only do that, but rope in all of the tangential characters that he's roped in, showing what he's done with Betty, being the Harpy was just mind blowing. And now that we're getting down to the brass tacks of the leader and the way that he really is, the quintessential evil in Bruce Banner's life throughout history, and having him be the kind of puppet master or overseer of all of these problems, whether or not they are effectuated by Bruce himself or just being roadblocks or speed bumps in his path, I think was great. Now I'm on the record and I still maintain that my favorite Hulk villain is the Abomination. But I think the most troublesome in Banner's life, the most important in that series has always been the leader. So to have Al Ewing kind of get toward the end of this story, which we know that this, unfortunately, this run is ending soon, but to have it culminate with the leader is just everything about this is a legendary run. This, I'm prone to hyperbole, and I don't know if you guys would agree or not, but this might be the most important Hulk run.
We agree that you're prone to hyperbole.
Facts.
What?
This might be the most important Hulk run since the character was invented, like flat out.
Yeah.
And on top of all of that, it's metal.
Yeah,
it's metal. I think that takes away from Peter David's run, though, because all this is based on the foundation that really Peter David set.
Right.
It is probably the most important modern Hulk run, maybe.
Of course,
I go back and I think of books that since you mentioned Peter David, but like Return to the Monster, that's definitely probably my favorite or second favorite Hulk story of all time. So you're right, and it's one of those things
also it's metal as fuck,
right?
Well,
he punched Thor so hard a tooth came out.
Oh my god, dude, that was like pornography to me.
Yeah,
That was amazing. He concussed Thor. Oh my god.
I mean, not only that, it's the Hulk punched the planet. Like he punched the planet
Yeah.
in the
Right.
future. Like he's Galactus. Like that's crazy. Like,
Man.
Your Superman can fly into the sun. That's cool. My Hulk can punch the sun.
Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, there's just moments like so. For me, for this being my number one book, this is every issue has. It's rare that you read a book where every issue is so good, and the cliffhangers it leaves you with is so good. Like I mean, the personalities of Hulk, Devil Hulk has probably like jumped up to my favorite Hulk. It's just his sassiness, the way he kind of talks to the other Hulks, and you know him not being so sure of himself. He beats Green Scar Hulk personality, and it's just, and I mean Joe Fixit, like Joe, it's just so much good stuff about this book. It's crazy.
Well, and as good as the stories are, we would be remiss in not mentioning that Joe Bennett's art in this book absolutely is a requirement for this book to be as good as it is.
Fact.
Yeah, this is like I don't know. This is the best argument for me personally that comics are a 50-50,
Yes.
creator contribution, because Joe Bennett's artwork on this is at least 50% of the delivery on this book. At least.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that first issue where he's talking to the guy and he's like, "You see, I can smell lies." I was like, oh, I might have peed a little.
Well,
Might have peed a little.
and Joe Bennett's not, he's not working by himself on this. You gotta give some shout out to and really this book shows how important a good inker is to a work, because Rui Jose's ink on this book, if you go and you pull the pencils, if you go and pull his Joe Bennett's pencils and you look at the finished effect of what Rui Jose brings with his inks, it's an amazing, his embellishment of Bennett's work. Just, it does nothing but add to the strength of it. A beautiful pencil with a bad inker can ruin a book. It can ruin an image. Like everything about this book is tuned like clockwork. It's all so tight and it fits together.
The stars aligned, and we got the best book we've got in probably 20 years.
Yeah.
Well, Joe Bennett draws like he draws his style. The way he draws his book is almost like a late 80s, early 90s horror movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cronenberg.
It's Cronenberg is all good out.
Yeah, it's like gross and nasty, but it's you can't take your eyes away.
The worst part of this book is that it's done in like 3 more issues.
Oh man, God. And the poor bastard that has to follow this.
Oh,
right.
I mean, that's somebody that wants to be fired. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think about people who follow great runs, and it's you think about how Ann Nocenti followed Frank Miller on Daredevil, and as good as Ann Nocenti's run on Daredevil was, it wasn't anything compared to what Frank did. But I mean, I will say, in a more recent kind of example, seeing what Donny Cates has done with Thor following Jason Aaron's run, which I know some people liked it better than others, but I think it's a quintessential Thor run at this point. That's hard doings, and Donny Cates has held his own. So maybe they'll get somebody who can really just drive this home.
You know who they should put on the next run?
Who's that?
Al Ewing.
Max, he ain't done yet.
I'd like to see. I'm sitting there thinking, like, who would I like to see take this over? I'd like to see how Benjamin Piercy writes a Hulk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know who we're gonna get, right? It's gonna end up being like Jason Aaron.
And
Moon Knight's gonna take his powers or something.
Damn it, Craig. See.
So that that doesn't necessarily fill me with joy or dread, because if we get the Jason Aaron who writes The Goddamned, then great.
Yeah.
Like, give me that right now. If we get the Jason Aaron who writes The Avengers, then I don't want it. I mean, I'm going to buy it because it's the Hulk, but I don't want it.
Well, I think I would expect Jason Aaron would kill it. I mean, based on just how he writes She-Hulk, and the She-Hulk was my favorite part of the Avengers when I was reading it, by no close measure.
Right. Yeah.
So he just takes that and writes Bruce Banner, man. I think he could very well kill it.
I agree. We'll see. But yeah, good luck to whoever has to step in those shoes afterward.
We should do that as far as one of our chaos episodes goes sometime. Like, think about the writers who are kind of doing awesome things today and what we would like to see them on. Just have a fantasy pick for books as far as our favorite heroes go. That'd be fun to see what you guys have. So, all right. And Craig, you said that this was also your number one, correct?
You're the only one left, Caleb.
All right.
You just wanted to go twice. Yeah. You wanted to go 2 times in a row.
Let's all hear why you're wrong.
All right, well, you can say that. I don't know if you're reading this book or not, though. So if you're not, I don't know how you would. But my number one actually goes to an Image Comics book, and that book is Philadelphia. This book is written by Rodney Barnes. It is drawn by Jason Sean Alexander, who, to me, still remains one of the best Spawn artists of all time. This is one of the, as far as the artistry goes, as far as what is put down on the page, this is one of the books that it takes me the longest to read because I can't take my eyes off the panel. This book centers around this kind of Philadelphia detective named James Sangster Jr., actually, and his Philadelphia gets overran by vampires. But these aren't just any vampires. These are vampires of historical note, including the second president of the United States and his wife, former slave owners. And that I don't say that for no reason at all. That is an important aspect of this book. This book is not only just a really good vampire story, but this book takes the horror of reality. And Rodney Barnes, he's a television writer. He's written for a couple of different HBO series. If you like books or if you like shows like The Watchmen and how they play up the importance of the treatment of especially Black folks in the United States throughout history, but you like the way it weaved it in to a very nuanced story that was exciting and enticing, then this book is for you because it's really smartly written. It takes a look at what it does is it takes our history, which is actually a fucking horror story, and it turns it into a fucking horror story. And that is incredibly compelling to me, especially when you get these characters who are knowledgeable of the history, but also who lived it. They were the reason that it's a horror story, right? Like they are the people who committed atrocities. And now they're vampires and they're trying to take over the United States, and they're trying to turn it into a vampire ran wasteland. It's freaking awesome. Sangster, the main character, is also a gay man. And his dad, who was also a detective, had been turned into a vampire, has to come back. And so not only dealing with these people who are fighting vampires, like let's not forget the main threat, that these white supremacist vampires are trying to take over everything, but it's also dealing with a man whose own father is also part of his oppression. His dad's kind of a homophobe, doesn't like the fact that he's gay, and so even though they're on the same team, they also have animosity. And it's taken all these real world elements, all these things that cause a lot of anxiety and a lot of drama and strife in our world, and it's applying it to an incredibly written monster story with historical import. And all of that to say, even if it wasn't for how good the story is, Jason Sean Alexander's art is next level. It very few, what he does on the page, there are no straight lines. There are no hard edges. Everything bleeds into another. It is dark. It is splattered. You have to like squint your eyes sometimes to really find out what these people are seeing, and each thing bleeds over into the next. He doesn't believe in traditional panels. I don't think they're not real in his world. And what he does to make this one big fluid nightmare of a story is just badass. I mean, there's like, I could use all the, top shelf words you want to, but it boils down to just being badass.
I've read this story, all of it, and I appreciate your love for it, but you're wrong.
Yeah, dude. I mean, what about
I'm messing with you, dude?
What about when the Thing showed up and fought the childish Immortal Hulk and scared him? I mean, that was also dark and without solid lines and splatter, and like just totally killer, man.
No, this is a great book. It just didn't make it in my top 10, but it is a great book.
So I'm still trying to get over the fact that you can still be racist and be a vampire.
Right? Yeah. Have you read this book, Mike? You haven't read this book?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good, man.
I was like, how the hell do you have the nerve to be racist and you're a vampire?
Well, because I mean, it's just the next level of white superiority, right? Race superiority is the way they would look at it.
Well, I'm just thinking to myself, like, if you're a white supremacist vampire, do you like decide not to attack black people? You're like, ooh, I don't want to bite that darkie or some shit like that. Like I don't like dark meat. I mean, I'm just confused. I mean, it sounds entertaining.
I'm sure they like it, Mike. They just don't do it in front of their friends.
Well, to kind of answer, I don't know if it really answers that question, but so one of the things that they do is Rodney Barnes does a really good job of showing how bigotry is malleable and how it can be transferred to fit the whims and the moments of whatever the bigot wants. I mean, to use a more recent example, 2 weeks ago, a bunch of people stormed our nation's capital, and among those people were Nazis, and they were African Americans, and they were gay people, and just focusing on the one that I think I have some type of authority to speak on, to see a person waving the pride flag next to a neo-Nazi made me sick to my stomach. But it shows how they can set aside those small level bigotries or interpersonal bigotries to really fulfill whatever kind of fascistic or supremacist movement that they want to fulfill. And so it's transferable, right? Like he can, John Adams, excuse me, who is the main focal point, not the big guy, the president guy. He's the second president of the United States. He owned human beings. But what he's trying to do in this book is set up a vampire supremacist governance. So he's able to get over, and I think that shows how really absurd those isms are, those bigotries are. He can just get over it to reinforce his new hatred or his new supremacy movement and hierarchy, which is what he does. And there's a reason that most of the characters in this book, a lot of them, I think you'll see a lot of folks like the way that the Killmonger was portrayed in Black Panther. Like the most recent kind of big bad guy is a former person from New Orleans, a former black man from New Orleans who made it out to the West. He was a former slave who got his freedom, went out West to be free in a non-slave state, and people killed his family, and now he's come back to wreck shop. So there's some of that, like honestly, your villainy is justified on some level, and then you juxtapose that with just fucking racists who are also vampires, and how they're working at odds with one another, but also in hand with one another to get up to the future. I just think it's an incredibly well written, incredibly smart book, and honestly, with my top three, I looked at them for a long time, and any one of them could jump at the head of the other with any particular issue. But if you're not reading Philadelphia, I highly recommend it, because it is one of the best things in fiction that's being written right now. And it's done by an expert. And quite frankly, if Marvel doesn't get Rodney Barnes to write Blade sometime soon, I'm going to punch somebody, because it needs to happen.
Well, I also think when Hulk punched a planet into oblivion was very powerful as well. I felt like that spoke a lot about.
He outsmarted Juggernaut.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Which,
okay, but to be fair, it's not hard to outsmart Juggernaut.
Yeah, you're right there. I'm just still confused, man. Why is vampiric society so bougie? Like, I still don't understand how you're immortal and you have the
you're
nerve
overthinking
to be
it, brother. If you take racism and now you have a race that looks at all humans as food, it's just another level of racism.
See, and this is why I would choose to be a werewolf. Because
man, no doubt.
Same.
Yeah.
I can't disagree with that. So now, good books all around, dude. Putting together this top 10 list was hard and it's fun. And I'm honestly surprised there wasn't more overlap than what there was. But we named a ton of books that are incredibly well written and worth reading. So hopefully, if you're sitting at home and you're listening to this show, you can add some stuff to your buy list. Go check out your local comic shop. If you're here in Central Arkansas, we would encourage you to go to the place that we pick up our books, and that is Kapow Comics over in Sherwood. We're addicted to the sequentials. But yeah, Keel Avenue in Sherwood. Go check out Kapow Comics. Shout out to Matt, Tony, and the whole crew over there who keep it running. And
shout out to your family.
Right. Yep. Just love all of them, and even our buddy Mike here who pops in once in a while to let us know what's happening over in Kapow. So that place has really helped. Like it is a family, just like Craig said. So. We've got a few minutes. Does anybody have any honorable mentions they want to throw out?
No, we all stuck to the 10.
Yeah.
I did too.
You're trying to make yourself feel better about.
Hang on, let me delete
doing this again.
Delete this. Yeah, I stuck to the list.
Hey, I will say this, that the first issue of Taskmaster is one of the best comic books ever.
Oh, that golf scene.
Oh, Taskmaster may be on the 2021 list if it stays where it's at.
Yeah, like it's hilarious.
Well, I thought the second issue was at least as good as the first. When he confronts Hyperion. Oh, that was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to point out I'm the one who broke the rule.
You are.
Stop. All right, so let me ask you this question. We normally end our show by pointing out a book that's coming out next week, or a book that we think people should pick up next week. Do we still want to do that with this, being that it's an end of the year show?
Sure. I've got one picked out.
You got one picked out? Okay, well, I will. Castro, do you want to take a minute to pick out a book? I didn't know if you had one ready or not.
No, I think I have a book ready for next week. I'm really still waiting on the second issue of The Last Ronin, but I don't know if that's a next week thing or if it's got to push back. So
I am not sure, just to be real honest. Well, Matt, what's coming out next week that you want to check out?
Man, next week's light.
Yeah.
It is a light week next week. So, in that vein, the one that frankly I'm looking forward to the most is the new X-Force book. For the same reasons I had talked about it before. I mean, this is one of the books I look forward to the most.
I've got two, Caleb, so go ahead and go next. And then if it's not one of my two, I'll give Mike one of mine.
Well, I'm going to stick to what I did last week. I'm sticking with the future state of things over at DC, and that's Wonder Woman, or Immortal Wonder Woman #1 comes out. I am pleasantly surprised with what I've read from Future State. I thought this was going to be something that I would roll my eyes at. I thought it was going to be something that I just didn't care about, and maybe it's because I went in with low expectations. Maybe it's just because it's gorgeous to look at, or it's just fun and it's something different. But I have thoroughly enjoyed it. So Immortal Wonder Woman, also because it's got Immortal in the title, so it has to be good. Immortal Wonder Woman #1.
So Mike's book because he always loves a good Iron Fist book, is Iron Fist Heart of the Dragon #1 by Larry Hama and David Wachter.
Oh, wow. Larry Hama. Okay.
Yeah. So
Dave Wachter. Nice.
So that happens this week. And then Crimson Flower #1 by Matt Kent and Matt Lazinski. It's described as a mind-altering journey through Russian folk tales, trained assassins, and government conspiracies. So that sounds pretty amazing as well.
Are they just trying to like out mind fuck you with every new series they do?
Pretty much, yeah.
Wonder if that's down on paper.
That when they have their yearly meetings to decide what they're going to do next year, let's take the world and mind fuck it a little bit more.
Yeah,
and that's what we'll do.
Start all their meetings off with mushrooms.
Step 1, pull up Microsoft Word. Step 2, mind fuck.
Yeah.
Step 3, profit.
Oh, man.
So, all right, good stuff. Well, we will be back, same place, same time next week to chat up the funny books. I had a great time. Castro, my brother, thank you for coming on here to do this with us. Why don't you tell folks, you're always getting your hustle on. Why don't you tell folks where they can come throw money at you for things?
Well, I am in Cabot, Arkansas at the Painted Elephants, and I do tattoos Monday through Saturday, and on Thursdays I am at the Pal Comics, working all day, trying to be a good nerd to the rest of the world. And if you want to just cash at me money, just cash out. So I mean, nothing wrong with paying it forward. So
as long as it's coming to you, huh?
Yeah.
Pay it forward. It's gonna stop right here.
Okay. Awesome.
But yeah, if you're in Cabot or other places in Central Arkansas, you want to get some ink jammed into your skin, you can go visit Castro once again at the Painted Elephant Tattoo Parlor. Or if you need your nipples pierced, he'll go ahead and throw some needle in you real quick just for fun.
Yeah,
because he likes it and he's good at it. So
just don't hire Caleb as your salesperson. Needle jammed into skin.
I think you're hanging out with the wrong crowds, because my friends would pay you money. Maybe that's because I hang out with elite folks too. So anyway, if you want to, and you need to, and you should, you can come hang out with us on our social media pages. We are at SFG Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. We are the Southern Fried Geekery Podcast group on the Facebooks. If you need to email us, maybe you made up a top 10 list of your own and you want to show it to us and say, hey, be impressed by this, and we probably will be, especially because it's going to have some of the books that we listed on it. Shoot that email to us at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com.
And if your #1 isn't Immortal Hulk, we'll tell you why you're wrong.
Exactly.
I like to think for myself. I don't go with the group think. I think it's okay to have your own opinions.
Yeah, that's evident.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, therein lies the fault.
Yeah, right.
That's why we have these little meetings, Caleb.
I never claim to be perfect. You all love me for my flaws. I know you do.
For sure.
If guys, we got anything else we need to throw out there? You got any shout outs, any love to spread?
No.
Nope. All right. Well, in that case, do what we always tell you to do and go forth and love some comics.
Woo.
Can we get another woo? That was Mike. Mike, tell him how the woo is done.
That was kind of I was about to laugh actually, because it was like, woo.
Woo. That was a good woo. All right, folks.